All right. Hi, Alma. Hi, Richie. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. Today is March 17th, 2013. And I just wanted to go over two quick ground rules before we got started. The first is that right now this conversation is being recorded, and after the recording is complete, we'll be uploading the discussion to YouTube. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, and Richie, are you there?
Yeah, Max, I've lost you completely.
Richie, do you hear me? Richie, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. There's someone's playing with the mic. Maybe it's Alma's. Yeah, I can hear you now. I think, is Alma playing with headphones or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I hear a little screeching also. So, Alma, were you messing with your microphone? If you could just, like, let it sit down somewhere?
Yeah, I'm using the headphones, so...
Okay.
I can hear you great now, Alma.
Okay, great.
Mumtaz.
Okay, and then just on top of that, you know, here at Vonvo, we don't want anyone to have any personal attacks against anyone, and we want, you know, our conversations to stay civil and valuable. Are you guys fine with that?
100%.
Of course.
Okay, great. So, if we can each just give a quick background of ourselves for the listeners and anyone who watches this video. Alma, if you can just give a quick background of yourself and explain why you're so passionate about this subject, and then Richie, you could go next. That would be great.
Okay. My name is Alma Shade. I'm 22 years old. I'm Palestinian from a city called Jenin in the West Bank. I currently live in Jordan for my education. I would say I'm passionate about this cause because I'm Palestinian, so this is what I face every day. This is my life. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, great. And Richie?
Okay, well, hi, I'm Richard. I live in North Africa, in Tunisia. I have lived in Israel for a few years, several years ago. I've also lived in several other countries. I'm British by nationality. I've traveled extensively in the Arab countries. I know Arab country very well. And maybe people might call me a semi-Zionist, I don't know, but I still have children who live in Israel today, and my ex-wife also lives there, so that's it. And I'm also passionate, as Alma is, about solving the conflict as best we can.
Great. So, you know, I was discussing it with Richie earlier, and Alma, I don't think you'll have any problem with this. You know, ultimately, I thought if we could focus our discussion today around how to progress this conflict forward in the right direction as opposed to the wrong direction, I really wanted to maybe focus the conversation on that. And so, you know, overall, maybe Alma, if you want to go first, I mean, would you mind kind of sharing with us what particular items, you know, need to take place in order for this conflict to, you know, turn into a solution and to, you know, for this conflict to end?
Okay, sure. First of all, I would like to share my point of solving this problem. I'm someone who believes in a one-state solution, which everyone can be part of one country with equal rights and have, like, everybody's the same with no racism against anyone. I believe the first step for solving such a problem is to end Zionism, which is the cause of all racism that's happening over here. And this is the main problem that is causing everything else. Because people are being killed because because of racism, and hatred is being spread everywhere. Everybody's trying to assume things about one another and killing them in the name of this thing, which is racism. And it's pretty much caused by the policies of Israel, which is a Zionist state. That's briefly how I think we should, like, as a first step, to move on to get to the solution we all want for ourselves and here in this area.
Go, and Richie, go ahead. I mean, the two of you, since we each have our cameras off, just feel free to, engage in a dialogue. Richie, if you have anything that Alma said which you want to comment on, otherwise, feel free to, suggest what you think needs to take place in order to turn this conflict into a solution.
Salam. Your one-state solution. Who would be running that? Who would be the government of your one-state solution? Would it be the Palestinians? Would it be Mahmoud Abbas? Would it be Netanyahu? Would it be somebody else? How do you feel that two peoples, the Palestinians and Israelis, can live together when the Palestinians don't even recognize Israel's right to exist? How do you see that working? I'm interested to know.
I don't see that Israel has the right to exist either, but I think whoever wants to be in this part of the world can have this right. It's not about having Mahmoud Abbas or Netanyahu or whoever to rule. It's about having a democratic country. It's like how there are multi-nationalities living in one part of the world where no one has to rule one another. So it's not mainly having Palestinians live in Israel or Israelis live in Palestine. This is not the aim. The Israelis are coming from different backgrounds and origins. Mostly they're coming from either Europe, America. Some of them are Arab too. If they decide they want to stay and live in this country, they should live in one state where everyone has the same rights, not as what's happening right now, where no one has his rights. Like Palestinians don't have any rights living in their country, where they existed for so many years way back. This is my point of how, like, if they want to stay here, they should live like everyone else. Otherwise, this is not going to be solved ever. When someone thinks they have a superior position over one another.
Well, I think that the point of view that's been put forward over the years is having a Jewish state called Israel living in security side by side next to a Palestinian state, which is also living in security by itself. I don't see how you can integrate the Israeli and the Palestinian people into one state under one jurisdiction. I mean, you'd call that Palestine, you'd call it Israel. What would you even call it? I mean, I don't think that anybody in Israel would ever be amenable to not having a Jewish state, in the same way that I don't think the Palestinians would ever give up their right to having a Palestinian state called Palestine. I can't see how you could conceive of that all being in one state together, and who would lead it? When you have the Palestinian leader who shows maps of Palestine, which is basically Israel, I don't understand how that would work. Maybe you need to enlighten me on that.
Okay, there's just one question I would like you to answer. Why do you see there should be a Jewish state here in this area? In the very first place, why should we have a Jewish state where the state consists of only Jews who come from all around the world and they don't even belong here?
Well, I'm interested to see how you say they don't belong here when Jews have been on that on that land for 5,000 years, which is much longer than the Palestinians have been there. I mean, I'm not going to get into a historical argument with you as to who came first, but I mean, history is very much on the side of the Jews being in that land since the days of Abraham. So I don't really understand how you can claim that the Palestinians were there before. The Jews have never said, Alma, Israel has never said that it wouldn't accept a Palestinian state. I think it's, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's. I mean, I lived in Israel for 10 years, and the Israelis desperately want peace with their Palestinian neighbors, but I just don't see how you're going to put all that in one country. Honestly, it's a non-starter. I don't think you could ever ask Israel to give up its Jewish identity in the same way that I don't think you could ask the Palestinians to give up their Palestinian identity, Arab identity. I mean, what kind of unless you had a secular state, and how would you have a secular state when you've got Hamas fundamentalists, you've got Abbas in the West Bank saying that he wants the whole of Palestine, and in fact, you're talking about racism. You need to look in. You need to. I won't say look in a mirror, but you need to look at your own president, who says that there will not be one Jew who will be allowed to live in Palestine. I mean, is that not racism?
Well, I think this one thing that everybody doesn't understand really well. There's a difference between talking about an Israeli, a Zionist, or a Jewish. If my president, which I don't recall you've ever said that, but if you say so, if you mean Mahmoud Abbas, that any Jew is not supposed or is not allowed to live in Palestine, we have Palestinians who are Jews. So how is that even possible? And do you know anything about Palestine before 1948 and the creation of the State of Israel? We are people who, we had Jews back then. We lived in peace, side by side. We had Jewish neighbors. We never had problems with them. Everything started right after 1948 and the creation of the State of Israel. And you're talking about Israelis being here for 5,000 years. I don't get that. Why they are coming from all over the world as immigrants, and there are so many evidence that they don't belong here, and there are a lot of them are converts. Judaism is a religion. I think this should be clear for everyone. It's a religion. It's not a race. It's not people being from just in one category. It's just a religion. Like, I could be a Christian and I just convert to Islam. Other people have the same way towards Judaism, so I don't really think that's even logic. Okay, not to mention that I know that I belong there. I know at least 10 of my great grandfathers who were born in Palestine. Okay, not to mention that I was talking about a one state where there is a right of return to the people who were thrown out of their houses in 1948. What do you think about those people? Where should they go? Okay. Don't they have the right to go back to where they belong, where they lived, where they have ever been? Do they have to live their whole lives? They've been for over 60 years living in refugee camps. What's going to happen to those people?
Okay, well, first of all, I think you need to take into account that actually the day that the Jewish state was declared in 1948 by the Balfour Declaration was the day that four or five Arab countries decided to attack Israel unilaterally.
Yeah, because it's occupation.
The only people that occupied the West Bank, Alma, is your country, Jordan. They occupied the West Bank between 1948 and 1967.
I'm sorry.
The West Bank is not a Palestinian territory, or it's not an Israeli territory. It's a disputed territory that needs to be resolved through negotiation. I'm really tired of people calling it the West Bank. It's not the West Bank, it's Judea and Samaria. That is the name of the thing. And the only people that organized and occupied that territory were the Jordanians after 1948, between 1948 and 1967, when it was taken back by the Jews in the war in 1967. Now, having said that, you have as much right as an Israeli to live on that land. I have no question about that. I'm a proponent of the two-state solution. I think there definitely should be. I also lived in Israel. I had hundreds of Palestinian friends, as you say. We never had any problems at all. I lived very close to the Green Line. Actually, I just on Route 443, where the rabbi from Modi'in was stoned 2 days ago. In fact, she lived on that road. And there's an Arab village called Bet Sira, which is very close to Maccabeen, which is where I used to live. And we used to go there every Saturday. We used to drink tea together, and we used to chat about everything, and there was never any problems at all. I yearn for those times again, really. So I don't have any problems with the Palestinians living on that land the same as Israel. I just don't see how you can have that as one in one state. And if you're going to let all the refugees come back, how many millions are they? The Jewishness of Israel will completely disappear, and I can't see anywhere that being acceptable to anybody in Israel.
So you basically see that it's really okay for Israelis to come and displace those people, throw them out of their houses, put them in refugee camps on the borders of other countries, and then we just have Israeli immigrants coming from all over the world living in what's called Israel now, and those people have to live in those refugee camps for the rest of their lives now. Is this your point?
No, I'm not saying that at all. Even your own leaders are saying that they don't think that Palestine can accept. Well, I think it's 4 or 5 million refugees coming to live in Palestine. I think even your own Palestinian leaders are saying that. So I don't understand why.
My leaders can say whatever they want, but the people want the right of their return. This is a sacred right that everyone is calling for, because it's the right for those people who were thrown in those refugee camps. Have you ever been to any of those refugee camps by any chance?
Yeah, of course. I've been to. I've visited Beirut several times. I've been to Shatia camps. I've been to your country maybe 20 times. I've never.
It's not my country. I'm only living in Jordan. I'm a Palestinian.
Correct. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I've been into Jordan several times. I've actually never been into a Palestinian refugee camp in Jordan. As far as I understand, the Palestinians are treated much worse in the refugee camps in the Arab countries than they are in Israel. I mean, there are a lot of Arab members of the Knesset in Israel. There are lots of. There was an Arab judge who actually put Moshe Katsav, the Israeli president, in jail for his rape charge. It really gets my goat. People say that the Israelis are, an apartheid country and everything like that. When Arabs have more rights, there's hundreds of videos on YouTube, Alma, about Arabs who are living in Israel who wouldn't dream of going back to live in Arab countries because they're frightened of the lack of democracy there compared to what they're having today.
Well, let me tell you, those refugee camps that I go to every couple of days, over 90% of people I see are still having even the keys for their homes that they were thrown out to. They just want to go back to where they belong, where they've lived for their whole life, where their houses are, where their lives have been. Okay? If you've seen some individuals who don't want to go back, those are just individual cases that don't apply to the 4 or 5 other million people. Yes, Palestinians are not treated very well in the refugee camps, and this is one more point why they should go back to where they came from, because they're in a country that's not theirs. They don't have any documents or any rights because they live in refugee camps. It's a refugee camp. They are not immigrants. They are not legal immigrants, let's say. They are people who were forced to leave their houses and came to the borders, and they just have tents that turned to stone houses right after that. I'm not calling for, I'm speaking as a Palestinian, okay? If someone came and threw me out of my house and just put me on the border of another country, I'd want to go back to my house. I don't want to live in a tent for 60, 70, 80, or 100 years. I've been lucky that I wasn't thrown out of my house, but so many other people, there are more than 500 villages in the area that was occupied in 1948 that were ethnically cleansed. Everyone in that villages were killed. Not to mention about the other refugees who were displaced from their houses. Some people were thrown out of the historical Palestine borders. Some people were displaced among Palestine, like some refugees are in Jenin who are from Nazareth, let's say, or some areas in that place that was occupied. You're complaining about Arabs attacking Israel in 1948, while Israel was occupying Palestine. They came, they had the military forces, and they just came and took a land that doesn't belong to them. Is this right? Is this totally right? But the Arabs don't have any right to attack back or try to take back what they have? Is this like, I see...
Alma, this was land...
This is land that was promised...
in the San Remo Declaration of 1922 and further confirmed by the Balfour Declaration in 1940, in the 1940s, at the end of the Second World War.
Who gave the British people the right to give the land of Palestine to Israelis?
Wasn't the
we obviously...
The United Nations, Alma. The United Nations...
It was a Balfour promise. Correct me if I'm wrong. Palestine was a British mandate. And it was promised to the Jews to have their lands in Palestine as what is called Balfour Promise.
But the Balfour Declaration was supported by the United Nations, and on that same day, 4 countries tried to invade Israel and put the whole of Israel into the sea. Why should Israel accept that? What are we going to do?
Why should Israel come and occupy some other land that they don't belong to in the very first place?
Who says that Israel...
Where was... Because they never went there.
Justification that land in Judea and Samaria belongs to the Palestinians. It doesn't. I can argue with you, we can argue, and we'll never get anywhere because you're a Palestinian and I'm a Zionist, so we'll never get anywhere discussing whether Israelis should live there or Palestinians should live there. What I'm saying is there has to be a solution. And the only solution, as I see it, is that Palestinians need to be able to live on their land, and the Israelis need to be able to live on their land, but you need to have 2 states, a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living in security side by side. And that is what the majority of Israelis want today. They don't want a one-state solution because they see that they'll just be overrun and the whole thing will just become another caliphate like Saudi Arabia and Sharia law, as what's happening actually in my country, in the UK at the moment. You know, the things that are happening in the UK, I mean, I was there, I don't go there that often because I don't live there anymore, but I go and see my mother who lives there, and I'm appalled when I go there to see how Islam is basically taking over in the UK and the way it's being propagated and everything there. It's actually monstrous. You know, where are the voices of the moderate Palestinians who want to create and not kill Israelis? Where are they, Alma? Where are they? Because there are a lot of people in Israel who will be willing peace partners for you guys, but you've got to come to the table. And first, somebody has got to come on the Palestinian side and say, we recognize the right of Israel to exist. Until you do that, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen.
I'm sorry, but I will never accept the fact that Israel has the right to come and occupy my country, kill my people, throw them out of their house, and I just want to live side by side with them as a, like, they just take the land, live in it, and I just sit and watch these refugees and those people who are being killed, and Israel trying to, even in the West Bank, like when I'm in my city, the Israeli army is in the city every day. They are taking people, they are killing people every day, and nobody says anything to Israel. So I'm sorry, that's not my point of solving this problem, and it's not my point of seeing a Jewish state that should never exist here as a Jewish, Zionist, racist state. If everybody wants to live in one country side by side in peace and with equal rights, that's fine. Otherwise, things will never be solved. Because it's just not right. Would you accept that somebody just goes to your house in the UK, throws your mom out of her house, just take the house and say, well, I was there first, and just try to promote this to everybody, and everyone believes them, and he just takes the house. Is that okay? If that's okay for you, and this is how you see things work, then maybe it's just how you, like, it's not even human. It's not even right to think of your rights but deny them for other people. This is not how things work.
Okay, first of all, in terms of your own city from Jenin, I don't know where you're getting your statistics from, but the amount of people that have been killed on the West Bank in the last year is minuscule. It's absolutely minuscule, the amount of people that have been killed on the West Bank in Jenin, for example, and in Hebron and the other places that are under the Palestinian control. So I don't know where you're getting your statistics from. The people are being killed every day. People are not being killed every day in Jenin, Alma.
They are. I live there. I walk in the streets. I see them with my own eyes. I have friends who were killed. I have family who were killed. I'm not getting statistics. I'm telling you things I see and live with every day. It's not like I just watch news and tell you what I see. I tell you what I experience. I tell you when the Israeli army comes to my house and asks me to leave my house in the middle of the night so they can come and take my house as a military point to kill my friends. This is what basically happens.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you have never the chance to see that, but this is what happens.
Okay. Alma, do you think the Jews do you think the Jewish state has a right to exist in that area or not?
A Jewish state? No. No. I think if the people would like to live in one state for everyone, that's not a Jewish state, nor an Islamic state, nor a Christian state. Just a democratic state for everyone.
You mean a secular state and a non-religious state?
Yes.
So you'd be prepared to live in a non-religious state, would you?
Yes. This is what I want for my people, and this is what most of us Palestinians want for ourselves, basically. This is what we discuss every day, and I assure you that this is what we want for ourselves. Because Palestinians are not all Muslims, we don't want an Islamic state. And we sure do not want any state that's related to one religion, because that's not fair. This is not what we want for our country.
So Alma and Richie, what I was going to say is, do you think that there's a problem with that, Richie? It being just a secular state without any religious background, and then Alma, my question to you would be is, what about all the other countries in the Middle East that do have, a Muslim background, and for those Jewish people who just say they want one state of their own that can have a Jewish background? And I guess Richie, maybe you can answer the question first, and then Alma, you can answer your question second.
Well, I have to say I'm a little surprised at Alma, who's actually willing to give up her religion for living in a secular democratic state. I'm not sure there's any other state like that in the world, is there? You're asking, and I would love to hear what your leaders would think about this. You're saying that most of your friends would be happy to give up the fact that they are Palestinians, as long as the Israelis gave up that they were Israelis, and everybody would live together in this kind of utopia state that would, this one state that would probably be Palestine, I imagine. That's what you would want. It's not going to happen now, mate. There's no way that is going to happen. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime. And I'm just amazed that you would even want to put that on the table, that you would be happy to live in a state, okay, you'd have freedom of religion. Incidentally, there's complete freedom of religion in Israel, which there isn't in any of the Arab neighboring states. But I mean, leave it aside. You're saying that you would give up your right as a Palestinian just to basically live in a country on that land? Is that what you're saying?
I never said I'm willing to give up my right as a Palestinian. I said I want a one state for everyone that is secular and not related to any religion in particular. This is not giving up being a Palestinian. I will always be a Palestinian because this is where I've been my whole life. This is what I am. I don't see how you relate for me giving up being a Palestinian.
Okay, no, maybe I didn't understand you. So basically, what you're saying is that everybody who lives in that area should give up the fact that they're Arab or Jew. Is that what you're saying? And everybody should just live together in a secular democracy, or would there be religion there, or would Jews have the right to pray there? Would Jews have the right to go to the Western Wall? I mean, what would you do with Jerusalem? How would that be done, for example?
Yes, but having a secular state means that the state, like religion, is separated on politics. Everyone has freedom to practice their own religion, just like they've always been. I'm free to go to the mosque whenever I want to, and whoever wants to go to the church whenever they want to a synagogue, or whatever. Everyone has his freedom to practice his own religion, but the state should not be related to one religion over another, because this is not a war of religions.
Okay, I think what you're talking about is utopia. I mean, I live in Tunis. There's one synagogue in Tunis. There were about 20,000 Jews in Tunisia. I think there are now about 150. My office is actually quite close to the synagogue. I'm not even Jewish, by the way, but I mean, my office is quite close to the synagogue in the middle of Tunis, and it's under armed guard 24/7. The Tunisian government has declared that it doesn't want Jews living in Tunisia. I don't even talk about Saudi Arabia or Iran or other places, or Egypt. Look at the persecution going on with the Copt Christians in Egypt. I'm not even talking about Jews now, I'm talking about Christians. Look at Assad in Syria. Look how many Palestinians he's in the refugee camps he's attacking day after day. This is supposed to be your brother Arab from Syria, who are doing more damage to the Palestinian refugee camps than they're doing to anybody in Israel. You know, the border, maybe it'll get hot now, but the border between Syria and Israel was the quietest border in Israel's history. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been up to the Golan Heights, but I mean, it's an amazing area which is farmed by the Israelis and the Syrians the other side. Never one rifle shot fired in anger. And look at Assad. Look at Assad. He's bombing Palestinian refugee camps and slaughtering Palestinians on an unprecedented scale. Is anybody in Israel threatening Palestinians with genocide or anything like that? Of course not.
Yes. I've had Israelis telling me that they would like to cut my hands and legs, and they would be happy to see that.
That's very rare.
I know. It's not rare. Believe me, it's not rare.
Let me tell you.
Go on.
I have a son who's in the Israeli army. Okay.
Thank you. Probably he killed my uncle or someone.
No, absolutely not. No, he's not. He's not in the forward forces in the Air Force. But anyway, I can't even tell you that how they have no compunction at all about treating Palestinians and Israelis in terms of rescue efforts exactly the same. How do you account for the fact that 214,000 Palestinians have been treated in Israeli hospitals in the last year? 214,000, Alma. More Palestinians have been treated in Israeli hospitals than been treated in Jordanian hospitals. It makes no sense. How can you say it's a racist state? I don't understand.
It is a racist state, and most of those Palestinians who are treated, and some of the Syrians who were taken to the Israeli hospitals, Israel does not do this just for the sake of it, because they are either shot by those Israeli forces. A lot of those people, if Israel allowed the Palestinians to have proper hospitals and equipment other than just not letting them get anything they want, if Israel just existed and treated someone, does that make Israel a fair state? It's not. Do you know how much time it takes me to cross from where my mom's city is to where I live in my dad's city? It's only about 50 kilometers, and it took me 7 hours to cross because of checkpoints. Is this racism or not? And I was stopped by the Israeli forces for literally nothing. I've asked him, why am I stopped on those checkpoints? He said, nothing. We're just wanting to see your ID, and he threw my ID aside and just let me wait for 7 hours for extremely nothing at all. Is this racism or not? Do you know how many Palestinians are thrown in just detention for no causes at all, which my dad was one of them? They've had no crimes at all. They were thrown in the Israeli prisons for nothing. This is not racism? I'm sorry, but maybe I just don't get racism good.
Okay, Alma, I don't think. First of all, I completely sympathise with you. I think that the amount of checkpoints in Judea and Samaria are excessive. It's caused by a situation of mistrust by the Israelis, which is caused by Palestinian suicide bombers coming into Israel, trying to blow Israelis up. You know, if you guys would stop trying to blow Israelis up and come to the peace table and say, we want to make peace with Israel, we recognize that you have the right to exist. Believe me, you would find a peace partner in Israel tomorrow morning. I swear to you, it's true. I've spoken to lots of people in Israel about that.
Please don't swear. Please don't swear, just for your sake. Probably if Israel stops trying to kill us, throw us in jails, and trying to displace us and ethnic cleaners, and do all this stuff, maybe we'd stop trying to go and do what you call suicide bombers. Do you think anybody would like to blow himself up and just kill other people? Do you think, people are just going to sleep and dreaming about this every day? Do you know what situation caused them to do this? Do you only see the act and don't see what causes this act? And Palestinian Authority actually recognizes Israel and deals with it every day. They have agreements together. They've been on the same table for the last decade or so. Israel is the one who does not want peace. Israel is the one who's constantly building settlements, illegal settlements on the Palestinian land, not to mention the occupied lands. Let's just see the settlements now. Or Israel has the right to do whatever they want, and nobody has the right to act against them. If I throw stones on the Israeli army who are coming in their guns and killing me, if I throw stones at them, I'm put in jail. And this is a crime that I could be in jail for at least 25 years for. Is this fair?
Okay, well, first of all, let me answer that, because the Israeli IDF policy at the moment is to not attack the stone throwers, although Lieberman has come out yesterday and said that he thinks that they should be treated in a bad way. Are you aware of a little girl, 3 years old, who's in a critical condition in hospital near Ariel in Judea and Samaria, who is in a critical condition in hospital? Her two sisters are also in hospital. The mum is also in hospital, caused by rock throwing from the Palestinians. Going through a window of her and crashed into a. Are you aware of that? Because in Europe, nobody's talking about that. You know, are you aware that Modin, which is where a couple of my kids live at the moment, was on a trip to Jerusalem 2 days ago? A rabbi from Modin had a rock thrown through his window. What are we supposed to do about it? What is Israel supposed to do about that? Just say, well, it's just part of the peace process. Don't worry about it. Let them do it.
Are you aware of people who are losing their lives every day? I have a cousin who lost his leg because of guns. That he had a bullet from an Israeli army. Are you aware of that too? Because you're just seeing one side. How many Israelis are being attacked and going to hospital from throwing stones? Vices, the people are losing their lives because of the Israeli army killing them. Do you know how many people are killed in Hebron each day? I'm not saying each week or each month.
Now go on in life.
Do you have any idea of that?
Because
just 2 days ago.
You're trying to paint. You're trying to paint the IDF as a terrorist force who goes into what you call the West Bank and goes in and shoots innocent Palestinians. And I will never accept that, Alma. It is not true.
This is exactly what it is. This is exactly what they are. They are terrorist groups.
Okay, well, I would be interested to see how many people have been killed in Hebron since the beginning of March. I would imagine the answer is probably 0. You're saying people are getting killed every day. So show me some proof, Alma. Show me some proof that Israeli troops are going in to Hebron and killing Palestinians in Hebron. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. What I see, and maybe I'm biased, and the same way as you're biased, and we all have our biases because that's the way it is. And that's why this medium is a very good one to have some sensible debates. What I see is Palestinians attacking the tombs, Rachel's tomb, and the thing, and trying to destroy the things that the Jewish people hold dear in places like Hebron. That's what I see. And of course, Israel's going to defend those places because they are sacrosanct to the Jewish nation.
Well, then let's put this way. I see Israel as an oppressor. It's an oppressing state. They are occupying us. We have the right to fight for our existence and our rights. And this is what we do. The Israeli forces are terrorist forces that are killing people every day. And I really don't see how you cannot see this if you're really into this cause and watch news every day. Maybe you're just watching biased news. I'm telling you what I see, and you have the right to believe me or not. I'm only responsible for my words, and I would just not throw curses on people just for the sake of it. I'm telling you what I experienced. I told you what my point of solving the problem is, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. You're arguing on and on the same point, and you're just not trying to see the other points.
No, I'm trying to see your point. I'm desperately trying to see your point.
No, you're not. You're just saying that I'm not right, and this never happened. So it's your point.
Alma, I'm saying, if you believe that the Israeli defense goes into Hebron and shoots unarmed, innocent Palestinians, then if you want me to believe that, then show me the proof, because I don't see any proof at all on this side that's what's happening. And I can tell you, as somebody who a child still in the IDF, that it's not like that. The most caring is probably not the right word, because if you lost your uncle to the IDF, then I don't want to insult you.
Yeah, I've lost so many people, not just my uncle.
Yeah. How do you feel that Hamas would view your idea of a one-state solution, Alma? How do you think they would? Where do they fit into this equation?
You're asking about Hamas?
Yeah, I'm saying, you have two factions in in what you call Palestine. You have the PA in Judea and Samaria, and you have Hamas. Do you see? Sorry?
I'm saying, if you're talking about the political parties, we have the PFLP too, and we have so many other parties. And I really cannot talk in the name of those political parties. Hamas is an Islamic party. I'm not really sure that they would like to have a secular state, but I think that most Palestinians do want a one state. I'm sharing my points. I cannot speak in the name of Hamas. I'm not a really big fan of Hamas. I'm not a supporter of Hamas in any way. But I don't see them as terrorists, but I just don't agree on their policies. But I'm talking about just regular people who are just like me, my family, my friends, my neighbors, my friends in school, and every Palestinian I know are agreeing that the most rational and logical way of solving this problem is to have a one state. Some people would go for a secular state, and some people are not sure about that. But that's definitely the way that most people I know want that. I cannot really tell you what Hamas would think about it, because I'm not in that position. I don't remember seeing anyone of Hamas asked if they agree on having a one secular state for all. So I'm sorry, but I don't know how to answer this question.
Well, I think probably the reason you haven't asked is I think probably they shoot you if you ask that question, to be honest. You know as well as I do, and please not being so naive, that Hamas is dedicated to the destruction of Israel. It's in their charter. It's clause number 3 of their charter. They're saying that they want that Palestine will be will be on the land that is currently Israel, including Tel Aviv and Jaffa and Modi'in and everywhere else. So, you can't say to me that you don't know whether Hamas would accept a secular state on that land. It's a non-starter. They are dedicated to the destruction of Israel. They are not a partner for peace, as you yourself said.
Wow.
I understand that you have yourself and a lot of people in Fatah had problems with Hamas because of the way they are. They've been internationally recognized as a terrorist organization. So I just don't know in your one-state solution how you would possibly incorporate them in any kind of agreement. And just to tell you that even though Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization and dedicated to the destruction of Israel and fired 12,000 rockets, do you know there are 15,000 tons of goods that go into Gaza every week? Do you know that? 15,000 tons. Do you know that?
I know
all the electricity in Gaza is supplied by Israel, that they owe 200 million shekels.
The only electricity they are allowed to, I'm sorry, but it's the only electricity they are allowed to have. It's not like Israel is doing a charity. This is what they allow them to have.
They don't pay for it. They owe Israel 200 million shekels in unpaid electricity bills. They're supposed to pay, they don't. Anyway,
I don't.
a utopia, you know,
Hello.
if you could, there are a lot of people on the left in Israel that I think would probably agree with you and say we're happy as long as we can continue being Jewish, and as long as we can still pray to God and go to synagogue, and you can carry on doing. That's what happens in Jerusalem today, by the way. You know, the Muslims go to Al-Aqsa Mosque and pray, the Christians go to the church of the Holy Spirit, and the Jews go to the Western Wall.
Just allow me to tell you one thing. Last Friday, only people who are over 50 years old were allowed to go to the mosque and pray, and everyone else was stopped and not allowed to go to the mosque to pray. It was just this last Friday.
Yeah, that happens about once every 6 weeks, so you can't get me with that argument because I
this is what happens.
When there's a high, I understand that happens from time to time because of the level of tension. And also you should understand that the Israeli police don't let Jews go onto Temple Mount. Temple Mount is the most most sacred place for a Jew to visit. And I'm not even Jewish, as I said to you before. And the Israeli police stop Jews from going there. That's reverse racism, surely, isn't it?
Have you heard of the incidents that happened about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, where some Israeli settlers came to the mosque and they beat young girls who were learning Quran in the mosque, in Al-Aqsa Mosque? Have you heard about that? Did you see the pictures of how the girls were beaten up? Well, of course you didn't, because you only see one side of the picture. This happened about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And another incident happened about few days after that, where some settlers also beated some guys who were praying in the mosque. This happens, it's not just individual cases. I have friends who live in Jerusalem and they tell me about those incidents right away when they happen. They report them to me, they tell me what happened. And those happen regularly. It's not just something that happens once in a while.
Right, so...
And you do know that. You know that Israel is trying to put Al-Aqsa Mosque down and weld the Solomon thing. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called in English, but they're trying to build some Jewish thing on Al-Aqsa Sun. Well, we share some sacred places in Jerusalem. We share those places. Why don't we just share them? Everyone can do whatever they want, rather than trying to be racist for one another and stopping them. This is what I'm saying. I'm willing.
Your sentiments are laudable, really. Your sentiments are laudable. It would be great if that could be able to happen. But the trouble is there's religion in the way of all this. There's religion in the way. There are religious Jews, extremist Jews, there are extremist Muslims.
Yes, and this is because of the policies.
So you can't blame it. You can't blame Israel, really. You can't blame Israel for that, honestly.
Right, so just quickly, Alma and Richie, what I wanted to say is, you know, if each of you wouldn't mind discussing, you know, and you've been speaking for almost an hour, and you're free to continue speaking if you think this is, you know, productive and whatnot. What I was going to say, though, is if each of you could maybe try and label for the audience members, because you guys are obviously, you know, pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli respectively, if each of you could maybe try and drill down on a few items on each one of your sides, things which you think your side could do better to actually foster a solution for this conflict. So Alma, if you can label some things that you think your different governmental authorities could do better to, you know, promote a solution, and then Richie, if you can label some things for the Israeli government to do, because I want to think that both of you don't believe your two representative governments are you know, perfect. I think that would be great. And I just wanted to say that, you know, thank you for your time. I have to actually just go and run into a new conversation, start recording a different conversation. But, you know, there are a bunch of people listening, and I'm sure they'd love to hear you continue, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will do so, but I have to run too because it's getting a little bit late. But I think there's one main thing that we should do, and it is getting more education and differentiation between Zionists and Jews, because I think we're getting to somewhere of an extremist way of we're just